real Buddhism, please stand up. Okay, so we went over this a little bit a long time ago, the 3 flavors of Buddhism, but there's actually a few more if we start really looking into it. So now the 3 main parts of Buddhism are going to be the Theravada, which is the vehicle of the elders. It's considered like orthodox. It's exoteric, it's very literal, and goes straight back to a guy named Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha, the king, the king, basically the prince of the Shakya clan, became the Buddha, is Siddhartha Gautama, and from there we have Theravada, which you're going to find in most of Southeast Asia. Okay, simplistic, a lot less kind of esoteric things. There's a lot less secret teachings. Actually, none of it's supposed to be secret because it's supposed to be as plain as the leaves in one hand kind of idea if you go for that sutra. And you're going to see it in things like Sri Lanka, some parts of India, Thailand, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, stuff like that, Thailand. Okay, now you got to look at those because they're being mixed also with the cultural stuff from the era before Buddhism. The next main section is going to be Mahayana, the greater vehicle, the big vehicle. Now, they used to call Theravada Hinayana, which means the small vehicle or the little vehicle or the less important one, so people kind of took offense to that, and also, Vajrayana was kind of lumped in there because it was kind of an afterthought. But that was kind of let go. You'll find that in older documentation, older books. Hinayana, right? So we're not going to talk about that one. But Mahayana, the greater vehicle, that mostly comes from China. Okay, so it ends up through Manjushri Bodhisattva, and then you go down through the Bodhidharma, and you're going to go down through who's a few different ones from there. And that's where we're going to get like Pure Land Buddhism, which is a very specific set of Buddhism. We'll talk about that. Zen Buddhism and Chan Buddhism. And then you're going to get things like Tendai, different parts of Zen, and Nichiren, Daishonin, and even Fa Shuang. So that's kind of the main part there. Now we branch over to the Vajrayana section. It's a pretty complex section. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of weird interconnections back and forth and up and down. It's considered the diamond vehicle, and that's your esoteric school of Buddhism. Now, which one do you want to practice is totally going to be up to you. If you link them back, you are going to come back to kind of the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Five Fetters, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff to explain it and then expand upon that in the Vajrayana system. Now, the Vajrayana, you're going to have a few different lineages of those as well. There's the oldest one, which is called Nyingma, N-Y-N-G-M-A, Nyingma. And then there's Gelug, and there's Jonang, and Shagpa Kagyu, and there's the new Kadampa. You'll see that one as well. And then, what was it? Kagyu, Shakyu, Gelug. There you go. So it's like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main ones in Vajrayana. Now you start following those back. And, of course, Vajrayana is the youngest of them, because that didn't happen until about 800 when Padmasambhava went to the Tibetan area. Okay, and before that, there was probably some monks that had come through, or some teachers who had come through, but it didn't stick, or it was poorly stuck there, I guess. Same thing in China. You go back a little bit further. In China, you have the Bodhidharma. So he was from India, and he ended up in China and kind of reinvigorated Buddhism there. It was kind of there was monks there already, but he kind of reinvigorated it and gave it a little bit new life, and we have an entire new sect of that one, which is like the Chan and Zen versions of Buddhism. So, and further back from there, we're going to go straight back to Ananda and some of the other disciples of the Buddha himself, the Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Now, if you're looking on the other side of things, more the esoteric, they're going to get to the Amitabha Buddha. You will see that they're very similar, but hard to tell apart. We'll go over a whole thing on that one later on. But think of the Shakyamuni Buddha as the last living Buddha that we had, right? 2,500 years ago. He was an actual person who was born, who became the enlightened one, and then eventually died as the enlightened one. And that's the one most of the Theravada and those groups through Zen, Mahayana kind of like stick to that one. Now, as you get further into Amitabha, you start getting into the celestial Buddhas and the previous Buddhas before that, and then you kind of like have to mix in a little bit of the Hindu aspects where the Buddha is actually one of the manifestations of Vishnu and all this kind of stuff. And it gets very complex. And then there's, as you go from time when that started out to now, you have dreams and things that people had in the Vajrayana system about other stuff in the Theravada system or the Mahayana system. And there's a lot of dream interpretation stuff and a lot of other very like esoteric things. So which is the best for you? That depends. Are you data driven? Do you want a more fundamental religious practice? Do you want a spiritual practice? Do you want a combination of the three? Do you want this to just be a non-denominational, very secular thing? If you're going secular, you're going to have to go way over to the Theravada or even the Zen side, because Zen is pretty no-nonsense. Meditation is the key. Study is the key. It's really good. Development of wisdom, the cultivation of the mind, without a lot of pomp and circumstance, without a lot of other mystical things that you kind of discount anyway, right? I mean, you start seeing the stories as allegories and as similes and stuff like that. You need to see them as training. And I personally, turns out I'm a kind of a secular Buddhist, turns out, I like those as teaching stories. Kind of like we can use Star Wars as a teaching story to see the finding of the self and the finding of the power within and all of that kind of jazz. Same kind of thing that we can see in the different stories. They're not literal, they're exemplary, they're examples. Okay, just like the Mahakalas, as you go further over to the esoteric side, they're more and more real, like actual real beings. And as you go further towards the exoteric side, you get them to be more as examples and like depictions of, right? So it makes sense. So you got to pick the one and research the one that you like. Now, you're going to find out all of them. Here's what's going to happen too. You're going to go to them and they're going to say, this is the real one. Never fails. You're going to hear that from Nyingma, which is one of my teachers. Is Nyingma. He said, oh no, this is the real one. This is the original that came from here and all this kind of stuff. And then I have Mahayana teachers who are going to say, well, this is the way it actually should be because of this, that, and the other. And then you have the Theravada purists who are going to say, no, this is the original and this is the way it should be. And then the Zen ones is like, well, this is just what it is. And when you really start looking at those things, you start to get an idea of what you kind of like. Now, starting out flashy and fun, esoteric for sure, because you get like horns and cool hats and a lot of colors and a lot of noises and bells and drums and dancing and all kinds of things, offerings of food, offerings of alcohol, offerings of tobacco and stuff like that, man. You'll see that actually in those for the Mahakalas, the different pujas. And then as you start working your way back towards the exoteric, you're going to actually become more and more simplistic and practical. Now, simplistic just on the surface, it's very complex when you get in there, but it's going to be very, very easy on the eyes. You know, whereas like in a Zendo, you're going to have a very open space, very clean, very simple, very few things to distract you. Theravada, kind of similar. You don't have as much of the bells and the whistles, for example, but we do have depictions of the Buddha. Okay, we'll talk about depictions of the Buddha anyway. That's a whole other conversation. But there you go. There's the three main ones. Now, each one of them, okay, even Theravada has a couple branches. Mahayana, bunch of branches. The branches are going to be you're going to find those in Japan. You're going to find them in Taiwan. You're going to find them in China and Mongolia, a few other places. And it's going to like really, they're going to overlap with the Vajrayana in many cases because you're going to have Vajrayana influences in Japanese Buddhism. It's really weird. A lot of the fire festivals and the fire pujas and stuff are straight from. I mean, you can see the direct correlation of those, and they're very interesting. And I think that anybody who's looking into studying Buddhism and starting from zero, just start. It's like going to a buffet. You don't know what the food is. Try a little bit of everything, just a little bit, and see what you like, and go from there. That's my advice for starting with Buddhism. I continued on with the Zen or Chan tradition. It was technically Chan because I was older and I liked that better. It just appealed to me more. My teachers, like I said, I have teachers that are Vajrayana and Nyingma. This is a Rinpoche, and I have teachers that are from Theravada and from Mahayana. So I have many teachers and many, I guess you'd call them advisors, something like that, and friends, many friends, and hopefully you will be too. So don't forget to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Let me know which one you're more interested in, why. Which of the main schools? Are you more interested in the exoteric or the esoteric? The esoteric's more the magical stuff, man, and that's kind of, it's interesting. May not be completely applicable for you. Maybe it is. You know, I like some of the stuff, but it gets pretty drawn out, and it can be pretty embroiled, and it seems like when you get in there, there's a lot of secrecy and stuff like that, which I just didn't like. I mean, it seemed, for lack of a better term, kind of cultish. And as you get things that are more and more restrictive, it'll seem more cultish. And the more you have to relate to a single guru, keep them on top of your head, the more cultish it will feel. Now, you can avoid that by developing your own mind, right? So anyway, this is Reverend Sean with the Centered Path. Don't forget to subscribe. Give us a like. They're free, right? I'm working on a lot more videos on this kind of stuff. We're going to go through the different parts of it anyway, but this is a good start. So this is an extension of the other video, which I'll put right up here, and we'll go from there. You guys take care of yourselves.